Well, hello everybody.
I had a headache for the weekend still.
We're here for the new year, for 2020.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a news program.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like
2020.
Wawa.
We're here. We're live again with Revelation series. This time, Revelation chapter 8.
I can't find Revelations. Where am I?
Last book of the last book.
I know, but I can't even find the Bible.
Here.
Go ahead. I'll find you. I'll catch
It's
up
not
to
on
y'all.
Facebook.
No, I had 2% power today, so everything is messed up beyond all beyond today.
Okay.
On this, so it'll just take me a little bit of.
Well, Teresa, can I ask you again to read for me, please?
Okay, chapter 8.
Here. Find me. Go ahead.
You want me to? Okay. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Another angel with a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given a great quantity of incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar that is before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayer of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumbling, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets made ready to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were hurled to the earth. And a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain, burning with fire, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea became blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of the water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the water became wormwood, and many died from the water, because it was made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light was darkened. A third of the day was kept from shining, and likewise the night. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew in mid-heaven, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth at the blast of the other trumpets that the 3 angels are about to blow."
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Revelation chapter 8. And I think my battery is dead on that. Okay. So. Come on.
It's always 7 and 7 and 7 and.
Oh, this is the third
Yes.
and the third and the third.
And a third and a third and a third, but it was 7 trumpets and 7 and a third and a third.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the 7th seal. So, chapter 8 is about there we go. The 7th seal is opened, and when it is opened, there is silence in heaven for the span of a half an hour. Then 7 angels are given 7 trumpets. Then the first 4 trumpets sound. And then we've got the woes. So the first trumpet deals with trees and grass. The second trumpet deals with the seas. The third trumpet deals with the rivers. And the fourth trumpet deals with the sun, moon, and stars, anything in the sky. So other than people and animals, this takes care of all of the physical world. Okay, so let me see if I can. Good. Our image for today, images. So our first trumpet, you can see, has a lot to do with the grass is all burning, the trees are burning. Okay, one third.
Like Australia right now.
Yeah, kind of like Australia. You're right. You're right.
California.
The second trumpet has to do with the seas and the seas turning to blood, and a third of the sea creatures, and a third of ships, and okay. The third trumpet is wormwood. Wormwood means bitter. So the name of the asteroid or whatever comes from the sky is called wormwood. And it turns all drinking water, a third of the drinking water, into blood. Rivers. Oops. Hello. Stop. Okay. Excuse me. There we go. And the fourth trumpet. Fourth trumpet has to do with the sun, moon, and stars. A third of them were darkened. What does all this mean? Who knows? Let's figure it out. The first trumpet is sounded. Sorry, there we go. The first trumpet is sounded, and there's silence for the span of a half an hour. Why? Okay, let me start. Chapter 8. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. That's all it says. Okay? Why? Who knows? Well, we do have a commentary on that. Okay. I'm just going to read this before we get into all of it. After the account of the sealing of the 144,000 in Revelation 7, John describes the breaking of the seventh and final seal in chapter 8. The final seal judgment will initiate a dramatic pause that will set up the next set of global calamities, known as the trumpet judgments. It's important to note that the seventh judgment in each of the sets of 7 judgments, seals, trumpets, and bowls, each unlock the next phase of judgment and include a proclamation or strange silence in the next phase of judgment. Or strange silence in the case of the seventh seal. Thunder, lightning, something falling from the sky, and increasingly destructive earthquake-related events. When the seventh seal is opened, John tells us there will be silence in heaven for about a half an hour. You'll recall from our earlier reading that heaven is filled with magnificent sounds of celebration from multitudes of angels and believers who will be singing and praising God. It will be anything but quiet there. The silence caused by the breaking of the seventh seal will be obvious and deafening. Experts speculate about reason for the 30 minutes of silence. I honestly don't know, but I believe we will understand it at the time. One possibility is that the silence will indicate the world has reached a point of no return, and that something of major significance is about to occur. The silence described by John seems to be in anticipation of what follows. After the 30 minutes, another angel will show up on the scene with a golden censer full of incense mixed with the prayers of God's people. As he stands at the altar before God's throne, the angel will fill the censer with fire from the altar in heaven and throw it down to earth, causing thunder, lightning, and an earthquake sent by a certified mail from heaven's throne room. While the first 6 sealed judgments relate primarily to the natural degeneration of mankind in creation, the 7th sealed judgment will come directly from heaven itself. In this scene, the prayers of God's people will have been collected, will be mixed with incense and delivered to God. Then they will be mixed with heavenly fire, think judgment, power, awe, and thrown to the earth. It's as if God will be saying, enough is enough. I have done everything possible to offer grace, but your time is up. I will now judge the evil that my children have so often cried out for me to avenge. God is perfectly just. He will right every wrong and must, by his nature, punish evil. God is patient and not wanting anyone to perish. 2 Peter 3:9. But a time will come when his patience runs out. With the tribulation period already in full swing by this point in John's vision, the outpouring of judgment is about to be taken to a new level as God hears the cries of his own. When someone messes with your kids, all bets are off. Mama Bear or Papa Bear comes running and you better watch out. I believe that is at least partly what is depicted here. With the breaking of the 7th seal, God's abounding grace and long restraint will give way to vengeance and righteous judgment. Yet, as we will see in the upcoming chapters of the book, in the midst of all his judgments, God will continue to show grace to those who are willing to turn from their sinful ways and acknowledge him for who he is. At this point, the conditions depicted in John's end-time vision will go from bad to a whole lot worse. A mysterious heavenly fire will be hurled to the earth, accompanied by the staple elements of God's judgment, including thunder, lightning, and earthquake. That's interesting. Okay. All right. Verse 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, and he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Now, incense is depicted elsewhere in the Bible as the prayers or even worship from his people.
Incense?
Incense, yeah.
I was always told that incense was so that you would know, like you could sense the presence of God all around you, like you would feel it.
Well, what I mean, yeah, that's probably what you were taught in Catholicism, or is it just something you thought?
No, that was I don't remember. I think it was a Methodist minister that told me that.
Okay. Because of the current Christian church, like our church, we don't use that censers.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, in Revelations previously, it's talked about incense as being the prayers or worship of the saints going up to heaven.
Right.
Biblically, from the word, incense means, either prayers or worship going up to God.
Okay.
So that's what I was. Right. Okay, let's see what we got here. Come on. Of course. All right. 7 angels are given 7 trumpets. Another angel had a censer filled with incense mixed with the prayers of saints. So now we have one big angel who has the censer and is giving 7 other angels 7 trumpets. Okay. So the big angel who's giving out the 7 trumpets takes the fire from the altar of God and mixes it with prayer of this, the incense and prayers, right? The mixture. And then he poured it out on the earth, and voices, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake happens upon the earth. Now, what is that going to look like? I don't know.
I don't want to know. I want to be up there looking down.
Okay. So in chapter 8 is only the first 4 trumpets.
Okay.
The last 3 trumpets are in chapter 9. So. First trumpet judgment. 1/3 of the earth's trees are burned up. All of the earth's grass is burned up. Can you imagine? Every blade of grass will be gone from the earth at some point in the future. Hail falls on the earth mixed with fire and blood. Is it possibly nuclear in origin? Or is it all supernatural? Let me see. Let's see which one of these I have.
There's a lot of stuff happening now. It's getting very hard to explain.
Yep. All right. Here's a question. Are the trumpet judgments symbolic or literal? There is agreement among futurists that trumpets represent judgments. However, there is disagreement about the exact nature of the judgments. The disagreement revolves around whether the language is symbolic or should be understood in a more literal sense. For those who take these visions symbolically, some would interpret the great star that falls from heaven in Revelations 8:10-11, which we'll see in a moment, as a person of great influence who poisons the earth with evil. The sun, moon, and stars are understood as governing powers and authorities. Then there are those who view the trumpet judgments as literal events that will happen in the end times. The first 4 trumpets are separated from the final 3, since the last 3 are designated as woe judgments, which we'll also see. The first 4 describe real astronomical, ecological events that will pummel the earth during the tribulation. Those who interpret these judgments literally see no valid reason based on the text to spiritualize the judgments. Whether we take these visions as literal or symbolic, one thing is for sure: the devastation will be so dreadful that no amount of government aid, relief efforts, or advanced preparation will be able to bring recovery. That is really scary, isn't it?
It is scary.
Yep. Okay. All right, trumpet judgment 1. Hail, fire, and blood from the sky. When the first trumpet judgment is sounded, 1/3 of the vegetation and 100% of the earth's grass will be burned up. I've heard various natural and supernatural explanations given for the potential causes of the hail, fire, and blood, but the bottom line is that the earth will be scorched. 1/3 of the forests and vegetations will be destroyed, and all grass will be too. The fact that all grass will be scorched lets us know that this will be a global catastrophe. Either the phenomenon will happen everywhere vegetation exists, or it will occur on one side of the earth, as in the case of a massive meteor shower, or the effects of a coronal mass ejection from the sun, with the resulting excessive heat affecting the entire planet and destroying all grass everywhere. So, because we don't fully understand what the Revelator saw, we can only speculate on what it's going to be. We just know it's going to be bad. And because he lived 2,000 years ago,
He can't depict what we see.
he can't describe what we're seeing now. So he's describing how he knows to describe something.
There's so much now, but
Mm-hmm.
even in my lifetime, I mean, like, I'm going to be 70, of course, okay? Microwaves and all kinds of things that they didn't have when my grandmother was alive.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, it's like the world is advancing so fast, and there's no safety nets anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place to. You make a mistake, biological mistake in a lab somewhere, and
Yep.
the thing gets it's done. You're done.
Yeah,
You're done. There's no place to hide.
that's true.
But I just see some. Well, what I saw today was something that kind of. Not even a prayer channel. Not even. I was just going through the channels on the radio, and it was just a regular radio station, and they were saying, "Please, people, pray for the people in Australia." And I was like, "What station
Wow.
is this?" I was like floored, because nobody says that anymore. Nobody has the nerve to say, "Let's pray for."
Mm-hmm.
Only the Christian rock stations or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a regular radio, and it's becoming that serious, that fire and the devastation there, and I can just see that little portion showing me that this is what eventually could happen everywhere, and it's awful.
It is.
It's awful.
It is.
So,
Wow.
but it's a shame that it takes that to make people want to pray.
All right, second trumpet judgment. All right, let's look where we left off. Okay, and this the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Correct. Okay. Now, and the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. Okay. Yep. Yep. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Okay. So we have. All right, so as it were a great mountain burning, so he looked and saw something humongous burning, falling from the sky, falling and being hurled into the sea. Okay, is that an asteroid? Is that a comet of some sort or whatever? But we know that a third of the sea is going to turn to blood. How's that possible? Who knows? Moses touched the Nile River and it turned to blood, right, with the staff. Mm-hmm. So, God does things the way he wants to do it. A third of all sea creatures die. A third of the ships are destroyed. Can you imagine a third of the ships? That means all the people on board the ships are then destroyed too. Because if the ships are destroyed, the people are probably destroyed right with it. Right, yeah. All right, trumpet judgment 2, flaming mountain landing in the ocean. With the second trumpet judgment, John depicts something like a huge mountain all ablaze being thrown into the sea. John describes what he saw as best he could, but most likely didn't know what an asteroid or giant meteor was. Almost 2,000 years before Bruce Willis and his crew attempted to land on and destroy an earthbound asteroid in the movie Armageddon, John describes one such celestial object that will land in the ocean when the second trumpet judgment occurs. The ensuing tsunamis and devastation will destroy 1/3 of the life in the seas and 1/3 of the ships in the oceans. I took a quick look at maritimetraffic.com, and as of this writing, which was probably a couple years ago, let's see, that would have been just before 2019, so probably 2018, 2019. There were 172,277 legally registered ships larger than 65 feet in length in the oceans of our world today. That means around 57,000 large ships would be destroyed in short order by the second trumpet judgment if it were to happen today. Interesting.
Well, there goes the aircraft carriers.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it's kind of just, the word close off for all this long period of time. You have a half an hour of silence before all quote unquote hell breaks loose.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like.
I'm out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off the ship.
No, well,
I don't care where I'm going, but I'm out of there.
You have half an hour of just nothing. You have all this time, nothing happening. God really, making His presence known, and you have a half an hour of silence before He just lets everything loose.
Yeah, too.
Just
I've had it.
I think of it like God inhaling for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
Letting it all.
and then he with a word things just happen.
And you're not even quite sure when this is all going to transpire, so it could be even longer than even though it does seem to be going that way. It's still it's kind of half an hour. Okay.
Yeah, a half hour is like an eternity to some.
And it could be like that too.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what John thinks about half an hour. He doesn't. Even what they consider what was done back and what they're seeing, what the Old Testament, prophets and Old Testament figures are seeing. You have no real way. If they have John have no real way of describing only the best of their abilities. So what they're seeing, we would perfectly know. We might perfectly know what it was, but since they don't have that knowledge,
They did have timekeeping because they knew the watches. The watches were every 3 hours, and so they knew by
I'm
the.
not talking about that so much. I'm talking about just the things that they saw,
Oh yeah.
visions they saw, anything like that. But they had no real, they
Right.
had nothing to,
Like the mountain coming out of the sky, on fire.
And for forever, I've known people, and I've had several of them in my family that'll look and they'll go, "Oh, it's a 8:20," and you look at your watch and it's 8:20, and they have no idea.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
funny.
I've done it myself. It's just.
Yeah.
But I mean, like people can do that, and I think when you have a sense of when you're looking to see when something is happening, sometimes you can do that. But this is to me, this is still scary.
It is.
a little.
But we'll either be together through this, or we'll be in heaven through this.
We have to be together. We have to be together,
We'll be by each other's side,
helping each other.
That's right. That's who we are. If we are destined, and I am a pre-tribulation rapture person. But am I going to fall away because if it doesn't happen that way? No. If it doesn't happen exactly the way the Left Behind series says it's going to happen, am I going to be, am I going to fall away because it's not exactly how I, think about when Jesus came to the earth. There were so many people who didn't accept him because he didn't come the way they thought he should come.
That's right.
And
On a white horse with a plumes and
That's what the Bible
The-
says.
The
That
prophets painted two pictures of Jesus. The Lion of Judah, the ruler, the prince, the king, or the lamb.
Or a
Mhm.
man with stinky feet and a robe on.
yeah, yeah. And there's so many people. I mean, look, the Jewish people, you know, didn't receive their Messiah because they were looking for
Yeah,
him the
I
wrong way.
understand. They were looking for him in the wrong way. They didn't want to accept the man, the simple man that came to them.
Yeah.
They wanted somebody more grand.
Overthrow the Roman.
Yeah.
But he wasn't there to impress. He was there to do a job, and he did it well.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So, yeah.
Okay, so just think, you know, we have the ocean, what, 10, 15 miles away from us is Raritan Bay.
Yeah.
You know, if something like this were to happen anywhere in the world, or at least in the Atlantic Ocean, you know, what's going to happen to New Jersey? It's going to be gone.
How long can you tread water?
Not that long.
Let it rain for
We'll
40
find
days,
out.
40 nights, and wait for the sewers to back up.
I would, like I said, I would like to think that because we are trying to do well and trying to learn and trying to, that we will be at the point where we will be graciously on our way, I hope.
Yes.
I would like to stop for tea someplace.
You know,
and watch it
hopefully the only time we're going to live through these judgments is during Revelation class.
Yeah.
Because after the rapture, if we are so blessed enough by God for him to take us out of here before it happens, we'll be in heaven. We won't be experiencing
Right.
it.
Right.
And I mean, hey, I've got stuff better to do in heaven than looking down and watching what's happening down here.
I know. Do you ever worry about people that you really want, like your family, other members of
Oh,
your
yeah.
family? Does it bother you?
It does bother me, but
Is there anything that you can do to make yourself feel better about things like that? Besides, just
it's all about prayer. Okay, it's about prayer and doing what God has told us to do in the meantime.
Do you believe that do you believe, I know that this is a Catholicism thing, but do you believe in purgatory?
I do not.
You do not. You
I do
believe
not.
that it's just a up or
The Bible says to be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord.
okay.
Doesn't mean that that we have a way station somewhere.
Yeah, because that was drummed into my head from when I was a little girl, and it's so hard to forget sometimes. Like, I'll always think of that one's like,
Well-
you're gonna pay for what you did, but then you'll go on from there. It's like the charge card. You get it, and you pay later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, the reference I've heard concerning that would be Lazarus and when Abraham,
in Abraham's bosom, yeah, Lazarus and the
Yeah.
rich man.
give me a drop of water.
Yeah. But that was before Jesus came and emptied out Abraham's bosom, which was a holding place before Jesus came, right? And once Jesus came, he took the keys of hell and death with him and brought those to heaven that
Right.
were destined for heaven.
Right.
So, yeah, no, I don't believe that there is a way station. I think it was designed to give non-Christians hope, or
Maybe
give
that-
you
yeah.
hope that your non-Christian family member,
Might
or
have that.
give them a way for them to get more money out of you by just give us more money and pray for them and they'll be out of purgatory. I mean, there's a whole lot of different reasons why that was
Special
created.
dispensation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So, anyway,
Okay.
So we've got a third of the sea turned to blood, a third of the sea creatures die, and a third of all ships are destroyed. And like I said, 57,000 large ships will actually be destroyed. At least. Okay. Trumpet judgment number 3. Okay. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Okay, let's see if we can do this. No, we cannot. Okay. Oh, yep, there we go. All right, the third trumpet judgment. A great star fell from heaven, burning as a lamp. The star is named Wormwood, which means bitter. And it caused the rivers and fountains of waters, meaning springs, underground water, any drinkable water to turn bitter. So it says, let's see, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many, So, so a third of all drinking water was made pretty much undrinkable. Okay. The third trumpet will bring another falling celestial object, a great star blazing like a torch. According to John, this projectile has a name, Wormwood. There is a speculation about the nature of this star, quote unquote, but it seems that wormwood may be a nuclear weapon or a large meteor or asteroid. Whatever it is, wormwood will poison 1/3 of the world's drinking supply, causing many people to die. Right. While I was writing this, my college-age son was taking an elective course about the plants of the Bible. Knowing that I was working on this book, he called me one day to say his class had just studied a plant called wormwood. The plant has positive, healthy applications when used in moderation, but can have deadly poisonous effects if too much is ingested. That sounds a lot like nuclear energy, doesn't it? When controlled, nuclear power can provide energy for an entire city. When released destructively, however, it can destroy a city, and the resulting radiation fallout can affect the water and environment over much larger areas. Perhaps these are clues about the nature of this quote-unquote great star that will fall after the third trumpet sounds. Or perhaps the falling object itself will be poisonous, or it will release toxic fumes or materials upon hitting the earth. Quick fact. Did you know that the Ukrainian city of Chernobyl, where a nuclear disaster took place in 1986, gets its name from the plant known as wormwood?
Yes.
Interesting, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Okay. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Being temperamental.
It is.
It's too bad you.
Okay, fourth trumpet judgment. I will change the battery for next week.
That's fine, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just telling people you fight about trying to figure out what she.
A third of the sun was darkened. A third of the moon was darkened. A third of the stars were darkened. Day and night were 1/3 less. Okay. Will day now be 16 hours long?
I like it my own self. I could sleep long.
8 hours of daylight and 8 hours of night?
Sleep
You're
longer.
losing 4 hours.
Oh, all right. I don't like it then.
8 hours. Using 8 hours, actually.
No.
Because if it was a third less sun, third
Yeah.
less moon, third less stars,
And it would be colder, wouldn't it?
it would be.
It
Yeah.
would be colder.
Day and night, if day and night were 1/3 less,
Yeah.
1/3 of the day less is 4 hours less, and 4 hours less of the night. So that's a total of 8 hours.
Would that be
24 minus 8 is 16. Do you
would that
think?
be pushing the Earth away from the sun further? So
Yeah,
we'd be
you
getting
never
less
know.
of its benefits.
So I was just thinking of that when I was putting this together. Is it?
Maybe
Well-
the Earth becomes a dead planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, God still sustains the planet. He's just gonna,
Yeah.
he's gonna spank it. That's what it is. He's
I
gonna
think
spank
do
it.
More than spank it. He's been spanking it a long time. You're just not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, when I read the logical result of fiery meteor showers, a giant asteroid, and nuclear weapons striking the Earth in quick succession would be a massive partial blackout.
Yeah.
In addition to these direct calamities, it's also possible that more earthquakes and volcanoes will be triggered by these high-powered events. As smoke and destruction rise in the air, the heavenly lights created by God to guide mankind will be dimmed to a mere 2/3 of their normal brightness. The landscape and atmosphere will take on an increasingly apocalyptic appearance. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. I
Now,
believe that.
now we just have the last verse of Revelation 8 and the woes. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Whoa, yes, whoa.
The 3 woes.
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Does anyone know in scripture what a repetition of 3 means, or a repetition of more than once or twice means?
Better take notice.
Huh?
I said I did it one time, but it's just kind
Yeah.
of escaped me right now.
Better take notice. Yep. It means a very strong declaration of something. Like verily, verily, truly, truly. If something is said more than once, it means you better listen up. Now
Really?
this
Hmm.
is 3 times. Whoa, whoa,
Where
whoa.
else can you find that? Does it happen a lot in the Bible, or is it just
Not a lot. No, not a lot.
is that-
Jesus uses the truly, truly I say unto you, or verily, verily, or, but, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer your question, so I
That's
don't know the
okay.
answer to that,
That's okay.
but, yeah. Okay, terror. That's what woes. Woe is a terror. Terror times 3 will now come upon the inhabitants of the earth. So bad that an eagle or an angel proclaims it in heaven or the highest part of the sky, not in the part of heaven where God is. So let me read that scripture real quick. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. Now, this was King James. King James said it was an eagle, or an angel. The other, let's see, angel.
Mine
Yours
says
says-
eagle.
Right. Yours is
NIV, I think.
NIV? No.
Yeah, NIV.
Oh,
says
yeah,
eagle.
NIV. As I
Yeah.
watched, I heard an eagle.
Yeah.
It is used for both angel and eagle in other parts of the New Testament. So, what the part of heaven, the word heaven here, is not God's throne room area, but the highest part of the visible sky for heaven, that's in the midst of heaven, means the highest point in the sky. In other words, whatever this is, either an eagle or an angel, it's flying very high in the sky where we can still see it. So that's the word heaven here. And it seems to mean that all people will witness this proclamation because of, it's like, it's not, like I say, it's not in God's heaven, but it's in the heavens of the earth. So it flew throughout the heavens, so it was telling everybody in the entire world about what was about the woes. So all people will, at some point in this creature's journey around the earth, will witness the proclamation. That's what I believe this shows here. Okay, so the talking eagle. When I read the scene John describes in the final verse of Revelation 8, I envisioned it as a continuous shot from a well-crafted movie. As the camera pans across the scorched landscape that tilts upward to reveal the sun eerily dimmed by the post-apocalyptic haze, suddenly the silhouette of a bird of prey enters the frame at close range, with the bird giving a loud screech. As viewers regain their composure after almost jumping out of their skin, they realize that the screeching has an otherworldly voice-like sound to it. The camera tracks with the bird as the lighting shifts and reveals that the bird is a large, imposing eagle, and it is speaking like a human. With its loud, screeching voice, the eagle proclaims, "Woe, woe, woe," to the inhabitants of the earth because of the trumpet blasts about to be sounded by the other three angels. The Greek word used here for woe is ouai, O-U-A-I. All vowels, that's interesting. An expression of grief or denunciation. It conveys the idea of long overdue punishment or vengeance. Some Bible translations render the word terror. That's where I got that, terror. That seems fitting, as we'll learn in the next chapter. If the movie clip I describe above had modern vernacular subtitles for the scene, it would read, "Look out, y'all are in big trouble. God is about to bring it. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If you thought things were bad already, wait until you see the next three judgments. Turn to him while you can, or be destroyed." After the first four trumpet judgments take place, an eagle will warn that the final three will be of another category. They will be even more severe, with some new dimensions, as we'll see in the next chapter. Okay, now, another thing, there was one other one I wanted to read. Are the trumpets in the first or second half of the tribulation? So this is interesting because the first half of the tribulation is considered bad, but the second half of the tribulation is considered much worse than bad. Okay, so I believe the most difficult problem that interpreters face in understanding Revelation is the chronology or sequence of events, where to place certain events in relation to the 7-year timeline of the tribulation. This is especially true when it comes to the trumpet judgments. Most futurist interpreters put the 7 sealed judgments in the first half of the tribulation and the 7 bowl judgments in the last half, just before the second coming of Christ. However, there is disagreement and debate over where to place the 7 trumpet judgments. Good arguments are made by both sides. I locate the 7 trumpet judgments in the second half of the tribulation for one simple reason. their severity. The fourth seal judgment kills 1/4 of Earth's population. The sixth trumpet judgment, by contrast, kills 1/3 of those who are left. This totals 1/2 of Earth's population. If the trumpets are placed in the first half of Earth's population, in the first half of the tribulation, along with the seals, then 1/2 of the people are dead before the Great Tribulation even begins. This seems to go against the words of Jesus in Matthew 24:21-22, where he says the final half of the tribulation will be the worst time period in human history. So it makes more sense to place all 7 trumpet judgments in the second half of the tribulation. Putting the trumpets in the first half front loads too much of the judgment into the first half of this time of trouble. My personal opinion, which is not shared by anybody that I've read so far, is I believe the woe, woe, woe delimitates between the first and the second half of the tribulation.
You believe that they what?
The woes, the 3 woes,
Right.
delineates or marks where the halfway point is in the tribulation. That means the first 4 are in the first half of the tribulation, and the second 3 are in the second half of the tribulation. But that's just my opinion. That is definitely my opinion.
Based on what?
Just based on the woe, 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 and the terror that's to come, and the severity of, if the angel or the eagle makes this proclamation, why doesn't he make the proclamation before all the judgments? Before all the trumpets? Or why won't he wait until the end of the trumpets to proclaim the terror? Why in the middle? That's just my thought. Just a thought. But of course, who knows? Something to think about.
He does.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, well, and this actually ends chapter 8. Let's see. I think we're done. Make sure. Yep, we are done. And let's see. Yeah. Wait a minute. Let's do this.
You don't want to get Josh in there?
No.
What's that? Did I kinda,
No,
did I
you're
press
fine.
the wrong button?
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So,
I only pressed the delete button.
any comments or questions on Revelation chapter 8?
No.
What do you think of chapter 8? It's almost what we're seeing now. Stuff is burning. Stuff is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do need to pray for Australia and
It's on-
Iran
We need
and.
to pray harder for each other. Never mind just Australia. People are just not praying anymore.
Yeah. You're right. But God is now delivering.
And what is all this hate? Everywhere you turn, somebody hates this one and hates that one and doesn't like this one and doesn't like that. I'm tired of it all. I am. I'm starting to. I'm gonna be a Jersey girl. I'm gonna go out there and start like. You better stop it. You better start praying.
Amen. Amen. I support you. 100%.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm tired.
well,
of these
it's because people don't have an
Don't-
ultimate authority in their life.
Don't they have brains anymore? Like, do you have to follow? I'm just going to use a name, Oprah Winfrey, because she says you have to not like diet chocolate bread. You're all going to run and you're not going to have diet chocolate bread. I mean, think for yourselves for a
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
Yeah, but if you just have if the only God you had was within yourself, and you don't
You have
a
a
higher
brain.
power,
You were brought up with good parents, hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
You know-
if those good parents didn't take you to church
Yeah.
and you don't have
A
higher authority outside
And yet
of yourself.
There are people that I know that never went to church that are going to church like crazy now and praying and everything. Stranger things have happened. It's
Yeah, oh,
not
yeah.
just because of that. You have to have a mind, you have to have a brain, you have to think, you have to feel, you have to love.
Who
You have
opens,
to want to love.
who opens the eyes of those to see in the true sense?
Mhm.
God
And that's all
himself.
there is to it. And I'm tired of the hate. I'm
Mhm.
tired of color. I'm tired
It's
of
gonna
it.
get worse.
I'm tired of it.
It's-
I
gonna
really
get
am
worse.
tired
Well,
of it.
you know what? It is going to get
I hear that.
horribly worse before it
I
gets
hear
any
it.
better. And it's not going to get any better in the natural, and the only way it's going to get better is with a new heaven and a new earth that's going to come back.
You know, I don't go that many places, but when I went to DC this weekend, I went and I was with a lot of, the girl that got married was Colombian, and the waiters and stuff, a lot of them were African American,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked a question, and this guy answered me rather sharply, and I didn't say anything, but I turned around and I looked at him and I smiled,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I hope that you have a better day than what you sound like right
Mhm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me 20 minutes later and said, I am totally embarrassed,
Oh,
and I apologized, and he
Wow.
walked away from me. I don't know what happened,
yeah.
but why can't more people just like hold their mouths shut when they don't know what they're talking about or what's going on?
Because the world has deceived them, have deceived a lot of people nowadays.
And they think they know everything.
What the Bible describes this time period, or what's going on now, as people calling good evil and evil good.
Yeah.
And people are going to fall away from true Christianity, from true religion, and they're going to fall for a lie. That's what the Bible says. And unfortunately, we're going to live through that.
And I understand that people have struggles. We all have struggles. We have struggles of accepting things, forgiving things, understanding things. But it doesn't mean that we don't try.
If a lot of us have gone to a church, a lot of people even maybe watching by Facebook or YouTube, go to a church that you have one person in charge, and it's really, he gives the message, he tells you what to do, how to live, and if we don't think for ourselves, or think or read the scripture for ourselves, or understand truth for ourselves, we're going to fall for anything. Because if all we're doing, if we're under a pastor or a leader that is either willingly or unwillingly telling you something false, we're going to believe it, because
Right.
we don't have the time to go looking for ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't want to open up the Bible. We want someone else to tell us what to do.
You don't want to come to small group on Monday
And
night. I know what you mean.
and so people get people will just do what they're told, and instead of thinking for themselves, and it's the group mentality that
It's just been a couple of things lately in the last couple of months, like when Lauren Daigle was singing that one song and she broke through the Christian charts to go to the regular charts, and her music was accepted. Just like today when I'm going through the radio station and it wasn't even a Christian. To me, I'm thinking Christian, of course they're going to say pray for Australia.
Mhm.
We're all praying for Australia. I mean, at least I am.
Mhm.
But you hear it on another station. I was jarred, because the way that the world is today, it's just not set up for that anymore. It's like, it's not socially acceptable. It's not politically acceptable.
And
to
where do
say
we all
that.
get our news from? News is now under the control of whoever has the most amount of money.
That's right.
And I don't know.
I understand exactly what you're saying. You don't even have to go any further there.
Yeah.
But even like people who Christians and even in the church, people act the way they do and they have things that come through, and it's like my daughter and my ex are totally turned off by the church because I try to get my daughter to come to Alpha, and she's like, no, because she had a bad experience in the church, and people, people remember that kind of stuff, and it stays
Yeah.
with them. And people, like Dave was bringing me back from going to, and I was ranting and raving and, not in the best moods and everything like that, was acting very Christian back when we were coming. Either way there, bro, whichever way it was.
He's not gonna
Well,
say anything.
Honestly, I'm bringing it up so you can be honest. Yeah.
You had moments you were not very Christian-like.
Yes. So. Yeah.
And I know I've been that way a couple of times lately over certain situations, and right now I'm at a stalemate. I'm refusing to budge. So I know that I can be stubborn when I want to be. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, but it means that this is the way that I feel right now, but I'm praying to God for help. It doesn't, it's going to come sooner or later. How it gets settled, I don't know how it's going to get settled, because that's up to Him up there.
That's right. And but it's it's up to us to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the only way to get the truth is to read and hear what is in the Bible.
That's right.
Because it says that whoever hears the word, that's what renews our mind.
But don't stand in front of somebody with the Bible and then read this self-righteous Bible and make it your ever-loving, living word, and then you don't live the Bible yourself.
We must follow the example of our best example, which is Christ.
That's right.
And
So
our
if you're
second
gonna read
best
it and
example
preach
is
it,
Paul.
You better be living it.
Yeah, and our second best example is Paul. He
He's
wasn't
a
a great.
highlight.
He
He's
wasn't a
cool.
great.
He could be a Jersey boy.
He was a Jersey boy. He was.
I'm telling you, he was.
He was. Yeah. He wasn't a meek and mild
No.
guy.
And
He
I
said
like
what
that.
he said what he felt, and you're wrong.
Yeah.
He told people they were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But he also did it in love too.
He did.
Yeah.
And
He did.
That's if you're taking the Bible and you're bashing over somebody's head,
That's not in love. No.
That's not in love. No.
Yeah.
Putting it down here. I'm not learning that way.
Right.
No.
I hope things have gotten better for you though. No. Okay.
Worse.
Oh, all right.
Really.
Well,
And
that's okay.
it's okay because I'm dealing with it.
Okay.
It's really okay.
Okay. Good. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close off our session tonight,
Okay.
and so we can go into prayer. And thank you all from Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
Okie doke.
Yes.
Bye bye now.
I didn't even see you. The only see is a lot of Dave.